In the fall of 2008, when I joined Congress, our economy was at its worst since the Great Depression. Predatory and subprime lending were at an all-time high. The housing bubble had just burst, and many of our largest financial institutions had gone bankrupt. Retirement and savings accounts were cut in half, forcing many to hold off retirement and continue working well into our golden years. Over 200,000 American workers were being laid off each month. In the state of Ohio, unemployment was growing rapidly, quickly approaching double-digit numbers. The 11th congressional district's unemployment rate was even greater, already at double digits and growing. In October of 2008, when I arrived in Congress, my number one priority was promoting policies that created jobs, spurred economic development, and helped struggling Americans. I have consistently advocated for these policies. In early 2009, one of my first and most important votes in this Congress infused more than $787 billion into the U.S. economy through the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act. This legislation was desperately needed to create and save millions of jobs. It focused on rebuilding America, using green technologies and LEED certified construction, making the United States more energy independent. It invested billions of dollars in research and emerging technologies to make our nation more globally competitive. It also gave 95% of all American workers an immediate tax cut through the Making Work Pay tax credit. It invested billions of dollars in infrastructure needs, including roads, bridges, mass transit, and energy-efficient buildings. Finally, it invested dollars quickly into our economy. In Cuyahoga County, which is where I live, this legislation meant over 4,500 jobs, and it provided salaries for teachers and firefighters. It also paid for construction workers to make critical improvements to our roads and our bridges. Members of the Congressional Black Caucus continue to support policies that create jobs, that provide career training, and improve our economy. In the American Clean Energy Act, Representative Bobby Rush offered an amendment requiring that jobs created from the legislation go to the residents of impacted communities. In the 2010 budget, Congressman Bobby Scott and Congresswoman Gwen Moore fought for and secured more dollars for job training and block grants. Congresswoman Corrine Brown, with the support of her CBC colleagues, authored a letter to the White House to promote funding for surface transportation projects. Tomorrow, the Congressional Black Caucus, along with the Congressional Progressive Caucus, the Congressional Asian Pacific American Caucus, and the Jobs Task Force, will lead a timely and necessary forum titled Putting Americans Back to Work, Direct Job Creation in Local Communities. This is only a sample of the important legislation my colleagues in the CBC have created. We are beginning to see more growth in our economy. Even the Wall Street Journal reported that the economists from the National Association of Business Economics predict solid growth and employment gains through 2011. This growth would not have happened without the Recovery Act and other Democratic-led legislation putting Americans back to work. We've done a great deal in a short period of time, but there is still much work to be done. There has been much improvement in the job outlook since I first came to Washington. The number of job losses each month, as well as the unemployment rate, have begun to fall. In April, the Federal Reserve Bank noted that economic activity has continued to strengthen and the labor market is improving. While we have a better outlook than when I first came to Congress during the height of the financial crisis, there is still more to be done. The nation's unemployment rate is an alarming 9.5%. Is alarming. 9.5% of the population is without a job. In Northeast Ohio, the rate is 12%. Unfortunately, African Americans across the nation have been hit hardest by this recession. We see the devastating effects of unemployment in all of our communities. The most recent data shows 16.2% of African Americans are unemployed. Many parts of the greater Cleveland area suffer from abject poverty and unemployment. Nearly 1 in every 4 Cuyahoga County residents lives. These statistics demonstrate that Americans need and deserve a more concerted federal effort to reduce poverty and create jobs among struggling populations. We must do more to curb our nation's unemployment problem. We must do more to create jobs for our people. Yet there is still much work to be done. I co-sponsored the Local Jobs for America Act. The Education and Labor Committee, on which I serve, recognizes we are going through one of the most difficult economic times in our history. The recession is forcing states and municipalities to cut critical jobs, those of teachers, police officers, and firefighters. I recently spoke with Mayor Clinton Hall of Warrensville Heights, Ohio. His community desperately needs money to keep its firefighters. Mayor Joe Cicero of Lyndhurst, Ohio, has been struggling to keep his police force. The city of Cleveland has had massive layoffs in the public school workforce. The Local Jobs for America Act will provide our economy a big boost by putting 1 million people to work by restoring services to local communities. The legislation will create and save public and private jobs in local communities this year. It will help ensure these communities have the ability to provide essential services. Finally, the legislation will help teachers by providing $23 billion this year to help states support 250,000 education jobs, $1.18 billion to put law enforcement officers back to work, and $500 million to retain and hire firefighters.